Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Welcome to our deep dive on Benito Mussolini. We're going to explore his rise to power, from socialist beginnings to fascist dictator,
Right.
and the impact he had on Italy,
Yeah.
and why his legacy is still relevant today.
So to understand Mussolini's ascent, we need to go back to post-World War I Italy.
Yeah.
The country was grappling with severe economic problems,
Yeah.
high unemployment, widespread social unrest,
Right.
and the Treaty of Versailles, which officially ended the war, had imposed harsh penalties on Italy,
Okay.
further fueling resentment and instability.
This period, known as the Biennio Rosso,
Right.
or the two red years from 1919 to 1920,
Yeah.
was marked by intense labor strikes, factory occupations,
Right.
and a growing fear of a socialist revolution. This fear, coupled with the economic turmoil,
Yeah.
created an environment ripe for someone like Mussolini to step in and promise a return to order and national pride.
What's fascinating is that Mussolini himself
Okay.
began his political career as a socialist.
Really?
He even edited the socialist newspaper Avanti.
Wow.
However, he became disillusioned with the socialist movement's opposition to World War I.
I see.
This disillusionment, combined with his ambition and understanding of the public's anxieties, led him to shift his ideology dramatically.
So he was an opportunist.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He saw an opportunity in the prevailing fear of socialism and began to espouse a new,
Okay.
more nationalist and authoritarian message.
In 1919, he founded the Fasci Italiani di Combattimento,
Right.
a group that combined fervent nationalism with anti-socialist sentiment,
Yeah.
appealing to those who felt betrayed by the existing political order and yearned for a strong leader.
Yes.
This marked the beginning of his transformation from a socialist firebrand to the architect of Italian fascism.
Mussolini was incredibly adept at cultivating his image.
Yeah.
He understood the power of media and propaganda and used it to his advantage, his powerful speeches,
Yeah.
and carefully crafted public persona projected an aura of strength and decisiveness.
I see.
Qualities that resonated with an Italian populace yearning for stability and a return to national greatness.
Makes sense.
He presented himself as Il Duce,
Okay.
the leader,
Right.
the one who could rescue Italy from chaos
Right.
and restore its former glory.
But Mussolini wasn't just about image.
Yeah.
He recognized that consolidating power required more than just persuasive rhetoric.
Right.
He needed a way to enforce his will and silence opposition. To this end, he created the Blackshirts,
Yes.
or squadristi,
Right.
paramilitary squads composed primarily of disgruntled veterans and ardent nationalists.
Yeah.
They were instrumental in creating an atmosphere of fear and intimidation,
Right.
using violence and threats to disrupt socialist gatherings, intimidate political opponents,
Yeah.
and quell any dissent against the burgeoning fascist movement.
The Blackshirts became a visible symbol of Mussolini's growing power and the increasingly violent nature of Italian politics.
Right.
Their actions, often unchecked by authorities, served to stifle opposition
Okay.
and create a climate of fear that benefited Mussolini's rise.
The March on Rome in October 1922 marked a pivotal moment in Mussolini's ascent.
It was it wasn't a military coup in the traditional sense,
Right.
but rather a carefully orchestrated show of force designed to intimidate the government and demonstrate the fascist party's strength.
Okay.
Tens of thousands of Blackshirts marched on the Capitol,
Wow.
creating a sense of impending crisis
Right.
and the possibility of civil war.
King Victor Emmanuel III, faced with this display of force and fearing widespread violence,
Yeah.
decided to appoint Mussolini as prime minister.
Right.
It was a calculated risk. A gamble that appeasing Mussolini would restore order
Right.
and prevent further unrest. This decision, born out of fear and political expediency,
Right.
proved to be a fatal miscalculation, handing the reins of power to a man who would quickly dismantle Italy's fledgling democracy.
Mussolini's appointment was a turning point in Italian history.
Yeah.
While he initially led a coalition government,
Okay.
he wasted no time in consolidating his control and undermining democratic institutions.
Makes sense.
He understood that to establish a lasting dictatorship, he needed to eliminate any potential challenges to his authority.
One of his early moves was the passage of the Acerbo Law in 1923.
Right.
This law was designed to guarantee a fascist majority in parliament.
Yeah.
It stipulated that the party that received the largest share of the vote, even if it was less than a majority,
Yeah.
would be awarded 2/3 of the parliamentary seats.
Right.
This electoral manipulation effectively rigged the system in favor of the fascists
Yes.
and paved the way for their unchecked dominance.
But Mussolini's grip on power truly tightened after the 1924 election.
Okay.
And the subsequent murder of Giacomo Matteotti, a prominent socialist leader and outspoken critic of the fascist regime.
Right.
Matteotti's boldness in denouncing the fascists
Yeah.
and exposing their violent tactics made him a target.
I see.
His assassination, almost certainly orchestrated by elements within the fascist party,
Wow.
sent shockwaves through Italy
Right.
and revealed the true nature of Mussolini's regime.
So the murder of Matteotti marked a descent into outright dictatorship.
Yeah.
Right.
Mussolini used this crisis to his advantage,
Okay.
claiming that the opposition was plotting against the state
Right.
and using this as justification to outlaw all other political parties.
Well,
The press was muzzled, censorship became commonplace,
okay.
and any voice of dissent was swiftly silenced.
So the Blackshirts,
Yeah.
emboldened by the lack of consequences for their violence,
Yeah.
continued to terrorize those who dared to oppose Mussolini.
To further consolidate his control and eliminate any possibility of resistance,
Yeah.
Mussolini established a secret police force known as the OVRA. Okay.
This organization was tasked with rooting out and eliminating any perceived threats to the regime.
Okay.
The OVRA used intimidation, imprisonment, torture, and assassination to silence critics,
Wow.
creating a climate of fear that permeated every level of Italian society.
I see.
The very existence of this organization demonstrated the extent to which Mussolini was willing to go to maintain his grip on power.
Mussolini's control extended beyond just the political realm.
Right.
He sought to exert his influence over every aspect of Italian life, including the economy.
Yeah.
He established what he called the corporate state,
Right.
a system that on the surface was presented as a third way.
An alternative to both capitalism and socialism.
Right.
In reality, it was simply another mechanism for control.
The corporate state organized the economy into various sectors,
Right.
each controlled by state-appointed corporations.
Yes.
These corporations were ostensibly designed to represent the interests of both workers and employers.
But in practice, they served primarily as tools of the fascist party,
Right.
suppressing independent trade unions
Yeah.
and stifling any genuine worker representation.
Right.
Real political participation was non-existent, and any dissent within the economic sphere was swiftly crushed.
While the corporate state was touted as a way to achieve economic harmony and boost productivity,
Right.
it was ultimately inefficient and bureaucratic.
Okay.
The lack of genuine competition stifled innovation,
Yeah,
and the centralized control hindered economic growth.
I see.
The corporate state, rather than representing a revolutionary new economic model,
Yeah.
was simply another tool in Mussolini's arsenal of control,
Yeah.
designed to eliminate dissent and ensure complete obedience to the fascist regime.
To further legitimize his regime and neutralize potential sources of opposition,
Right.
Mussolini sought alliances with powerful institutions,
Yeah.
most notably the Catholic Church.
Right.
The Church had long been a powerful force in Italian society, and securing its support was a strategic masterstroke for Mussolini.
The 1929 Lateran Accords
Okay.
marked a significant turning point in the relationship between the Italian state and the Vatican.
Okay.
In this agreement, Mussolini recognized Vatican City as an independent state
Wow.
and granted Catholicism the status of the state religion in Italy.
Okay.
In return, the Church formally recognized the legitimacy of the Italian state
I see.
and pledged its support to Mussolini's government.
This alliance with the Church had profound implications for Mussolini's regime.
Yeah.
It provided him with a veneer of moral legitimacy and neutralized a potential source of opposition.
Right.
It also brought the considerable weight of the Catholic Church behind his government,
Right.
further consolidating his power and influencing public opinion.
The Lateran Accords were a testament to Mussolini's political acumen
Yeah.
and his understanding of the importance of strategic alliances.
Okay.
By bringing the Church into the fold,
Right.
he effectively silenced a potential critic, enhanced his own legitimacy, and further strengthened his control over Italian society.
Okay. Mussolini's control went beyond political and economic structures.
Right.
He was a master propagandist, carefully crafting a narrative and building a cult of personality that further solidified his grip on power.
Mussolini understood the power of imagery and symbolism.
Yeah.
He sought to connect his regime with the grandeur of ancient Rome, presenting himself as a modern-day Caesar destined to restore Italy to its former glory.
So like a new Roman Empire.
Exactly.
Interesting.
This was more than just political rhetoric.
Right.
It was a calculated strategy to tap into a deep well of national pride and historical nostalgia.
Mussolini commissioned ambitious public works projects, such as the draining of the Pontine Marshes, a vast swamp south of Rome that had been a source of malaria and stagnation for centuries. This massive undertaking, completed in the 1930s, was a remarkable feat of engineering, but it was also a symbolic act. A way for Mussolini to showcase the power and efficiency of his regime, while simultaneously connecting it to the legacy of the Roman Empire, which had attempted, but failed, to drain the same marshes centuries earlier.
These public works projects were highly visible symbols of progress and national renewal. They were widely publicized through propaganda, further bolstering Mussolini's image as a strong and effective leader who could deliver on his promises.
I see.
The message was clear. Under Mussolini's leadership, Italy was on the rise, reclaiming its rightful place as a dominant force in the world.
This propaganda was pervasive, extending to every aspect of Italian life. Newspapers, radio broadcasts, films, and even school textbooks were all carefully controlled to promote the fascist message and glorify Mussolini.
He understood the power of shaping public opinion and used every available means to create a cult of personality around himself.
So his image was everywhere, projected as the embodiment of strength, virility, and national pride. He was often depicted in heroic poses, wearing military uniforms or engaging in vigorous activities, projecting an image of dynamism and vitality.
This carefully crafted persona was designed to inspire awe, admiration, and ultimately obedience.
This manipulation extended to the youth as well, recognizing that shaping young minds was essential to ensuring the longevity of his regime. Mussolini established a youth organization called the Opera Nazionale Ballia. This organization was designed to indoctrinate children and adolescents with fascist ideology from a young age.
The Opera Nazionale Ballia was a comprehensive program of ideological training. Boys and girls were separated into different groups, each with its own curriculum, and activities designed to instill loyalty to the regime and prepare them for their future roles in fascist society.
Boys were taught military drills, physical fitness, and the glorification of war. While girls were instructed in domestic skills and the importance of motherhood and raising strong, patriotic children.
The organization used a variety of methods to instill fascist values, including parades, rallies, sporting events, and camping trips.
Interesting.
The emphasis was on discipline, obedience, and the subordination of the individual to the collective will of the state, embodied in the figure of Il Duce.
So brainwashing.
Pretty much.
The Opera Nazionale Ballia was highly effective in molding young minds. It created a generation of Italians who had been indoctrinated with fascist ideology from an early age, making them more receptive to Mussolini's propaganda and less likely to question his authority. This systematic indoctrination was a key factor in the regime's ability to maintain control and suppress dissent for so long.
Mussolini's ambitions went far beyond Italy's borders, driven by a desire to restore Italy to its perceived former glory and establish a new Roman Empire. He embarked on a series of aggressive foreign policy ventures. He believed that Italy, as the heir to the Roman Empire, had a right to dominate the Mediterranean region and expand its influence throughout Africa and beyond.
This vision of Italian dominance led to the invasion of Ethiopia in 1935.
Ethiopia, one of the few remaining independent nations in Africa, was seen by Mussolini as an easy target, a way to demonstrate Italian military power and secure access to valuable resources.
The invasion was brutal, marked by the use of chemical weapons and indiscriminate attacks on civilians. A clear violation of international law.
Despite condemnation from the League of Nations, Mussolini pressed on, determined to achieve victory at any cost.
The Ethiopian campaign was a costly one, both in terms of human life and international reputation.
It further isolated Italy diplomatically.
Yeah.
And pushed Mussolini closer to an alliance with Nazi Germany.
Which had also been ostracized by the international community.
Yes.
For its aggressive expansionist policies.
Mussolini saw in Hitler a kindred spirit. Another strongman leader.
Right.
Who shared his disdain for democracy.
Yeah.
And his belief in the right of powerful nations to dominate weaker ones.
This shared ideology, combined with a mutual desire to reshape the geopolitical landscape of Europe,
right,
led to the formation of the so-called Rome-Berlin Axis,
right,
a political and military alliance that would have far-reaching consequences for both nations.
And the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mussolini's intervention in the Spanish Civil War, which began in 1936, further solidified this alliance.
He saw the conflict as an opportunity to expand Italian influence in the Mediterranean region and counter the growing power of the Soviet Union, which was supporting the Republican government in Spain.
So he sent troops.
He sent troops, weapons, and aircraft.
Wow.
To aid General Francisco Franco's nationalist forces who shared his fascist ideology.
The Spanish Civil War was a brutal and bloody conflict.
Yeah.
A testing ground for new weapons and tactics.
Right.
That would later be employed on a larger scale in World War II.
It also served as a propaganda victory for the fascist powers,
right,
demonstrating their military capabilities and their willingness to use force to achieve their goals.
The war further deepened the ties between Italy and Germany,
yes,
paving the way for the formalization of their alliance with the signing of the Pact of Steel in 1939.
This pact,
right,
a military alliance that obligated each nation to come to the other's aid in case of war, was a fateful decision for Mussolini.
It bound Italy's fate to that of Nazi Germany, dragging the nation into a global conflict for which it was ill-prepared.
In 1939, Hitler's invasion of Poland triggered the start of World War II,
right,
honoring his commitment under the Pact of Steel.
Yeah.
Mussolini reluctantly joined the war on the side of Germany.
However, Italy's military was woefully unprepared for a major conflict. Years of focusing on propaganda and symbolic victories had neglected the practical needs of the armed forces.
Right.
Italian troops were poorly equipped.
Yes.
And their leadership was often incompetent.
The consequences of this unpreparedness were quickly apparent. Italian forces suffered a series of embarrassing defeats in North Africa, Greece, and the Balkans.
Wow.
Exposing the hollowness of Mussolini's boasts about Italian military might.
These defeats undermined his credibility both domestically and internationally.
As the war dragged on.
Right.
And Italian casualties mounted.
Yeah.
Public support for Mussolini and the fascist regime began to erode.
The economic situation deteriorated, food shortages became common,
right,
and Allied bombing raids brought the war home to the Italian people in a way that propaganda could not disguise.
By 1943, the tide of war had turned decisively against the Axis powers.
Allied forces landed in Sicily, and the writing was on the wall for Mussolini's regime. Within the fascist party itself, there was growing discontent with Mussolini's leadership.
In July 1943, the Fascist Grand Council,
the
highest decision-making body of the party, voted to remove Mussolini from power.
King Victor Emmanuel III, who had long been sidelined by Mussolini, seized the opportunity to reassert his authority. He ordered Mussolini's arrest, ending 2 decades of fascist rule in Italy.
Mussolini's downfall was swift and dramatic. A testament to the fickle nature of power and the consequences of his disastrous decisions.
But his story was not yet over.
Following his arrest, Mussolini was imprisoned in various locations throughout Italy.
However, in September 1943, he was rescued by German commandos in a daring raid orchestrated by Hitler himself.
This rescue, a propaganda coup for the Germans, was a humiliating blow to the Italian government and a demonstration of the continuing influence of Nazi Germany in Italian affairs.
Hitler installed Mussolini as the head of the Italian Social Republic, a puppet state in northern Italy that was entirely dependent on German support.
But this was a hollow victory for Mussolini. He was a shadow of his former self. His power and authority greatly diminished.
The Italian Social Republic was marked by brutality and repression.
Mussolini embittered and seeking revenge against those who had betrayed him. oversaw a campaign of terror against his political opponents and anyone suspected of resisting the new regime.
He also became increasingly dependent on German military support to maintain control of the shrinking territory under his command.
As Allied forces advanced through Italy, the Italian Social Republic crumbled.
In April 1945, as the war in Europe drew to a close, Mussolini attempted to flee to Switzerland disguised as a German soldier.
However,
he was captured by Italian partisans near Lake Como.
On April 28, 1945, Mussolini and his mistress, Claretta Petacci, were executed by firing squad.
Their bodies were taken to Milan
and hung upside down in a public square.
A gruesome spectacle that marked the end of Mussolini's reign. And symbolized the final defeat of fascism in Italy.
The death of Mussolini marked the end of an era in Italian history. His legacy remains a complex and controversial one.
A subject of ongoing debate and analysis.
On one hand, he is credited with bringing stability to Italy after the chaos of World War I.
He oversaw the modernization of the country's infrastructure. Implemented social welfare programs, and promoted a sense of national pride that had been lacking in the years following the war.
However, these achievements were overshadowed by the brutal, repressive nature of his regime.
His dismantling of democratic institutions, suppression of dissent, and alliance with Nazi Germany ultimately led to Italy's devastation in World War II.
The racial laws,
and
the persecution of Italian Jews remain a dark stain on his legacy.
Mussolini's rise and fall offer valuable lessons about the dangers of unchecked power.
The seductive nature of nationalism and the fragility of democratic institutions.
His story serves as a warning against the allure of charismatic leaders who promise simple solutions to complex problems. And who exploit fear and resentment to achieve their goals.
Mussolini's skillful use of propaganda and his ability to manipulate public opinion highlight the importance of media literacy and critical thinking in a democratic society.
His regime demonstrates how easily a nation can be seduced by a message of national greatness, even when it comes at the expense of individual liberty and human rights.
The echoes of Mussolini's tactics can be seen in contemporary politics, where populist leaders often employ similar rhetoric and strategies to appeal to voters' emotions and undermine democratic norms.
Understanding the dynamics of Mussolini's rise to power can help us recognize and resist these dangerous trends in our own time.
Ultimately, Mussolini's story is a tragedy.
A cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, the corrosive effects of ideology, and the human cost of totalitarian rule.
It is a story that continues to resonate today, reminding us of the importance of vigilance, the need to defend democratic values, and the fragility of freedom itself.
We hope this deep dive into the life and legacy of Benito Mussolini has provided you with valuable insights into a pivotal period in history and its relevance to the challenges we face today.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.